0.15, and all it says on the requirement is provide an appropriate plan for your research project. But we are going to look at it because we're going to look at the Gantt chart, yeah? Which I know some of you have looked at, but later on today, this morning, you are going to be using a template which, have you all brought your memory sticks? Yeah, and I gave you an Excel spreadsheet template. So you've got a template that you're going to use. So we're going to look at that. And then we're going to look at how we could take it up to a merit. Yeah, which I think most of you know, okay, that we put that word justify. Now you don't have to do this bit, but if you want to go for a higher grade, we're going to talk about that as well. Alright, I've been talking about action planning. What do you already know about action planning? I'll just give you a minute to think about it. And what I want you to do with that is then think, why is planning so important? So where have you learnt about action planning? What do you already know? Somebody tell me. If you don't tell me, I shall ask somebody to tell me. Go on, Bashir. Oh, go on, is it?
Action plan is a plan consisting of one or more action.
Right.
The plan itself might have one.
So that's
or more
what
plans.
it is. I'm just going to stop you a minute. That's what it is. So where did you do? That's not wrong, that is right, and I presume you found it on your computer, which is what I'd expect. Where did you learn that? Where did you do that before? Did you find that on the internet?
Yeah.
Just now?
Yeah.
Yeah?
on the internet.
Where have you done it before, Jayshree? Where have you done action planning before? Anybody remember? Where's it come up? Go on, Bashra.
Classroom.
Not just here. Which unit have you covered it in? Who have you done it with?
Monday.
No, it's actually.
No.
Yeah, we.
Unit 7.
No. You might have done. Tell me. Israel.
Unit
So
six,
which
unit
unit
six,
did you
unit
do?
six.
Unit 6.
Unit six,
Can you remember?
Yeah.
We actually made the link
yet.
between Unit 8 and Unit 6. And for learning outcome 1 with Israel,
Yeah, unit
Yeah.
for
six.
Unit 6, you had to plan, you had to look at planning methods. Is that right?
Yeah.
And we recognised it helped us with this. So you might already have, and you should have it, just bear with me while I just look for it. Right, have you seen this document before? Just give it a second to come up in. Have you seen that? Action plans, 1, 2, 3. This is taken straight off the website. Now then, I have 2 favourite websites. Anybody remember? Have I told you which ones they are? I have 2 that I absolutely rely on. And one of them is called Mind Tools. Yes, well done. .com. Anybody any idea what the other one is? It almost sounds rude.
Business ball?
It is. Good man. You're aspiring this morning, Arnie. Yeah, those are the 2 websites I frequently use, not only for teaching, I used it in my professional life, yeah? And they've got all sorts of resources. We are going to look at what they provide for us in 2 separate ways, yeah, this morning. But I know that do you use YouTube? Do you know YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, so you perhaps use YouTube. Why am I a bit nervous about YouTube as a source?
Anyone can send straight away, you know. Source.
Anyone
Anyone
can
is allowed to.
anyone can upload.
Yeah.
Yeah? So, what did we say was wrong with using Wikipedia as a source?
Anyone can upload.
We said that. What else? So what have you got to do if
The
you use
resource don't have
Wikipedia?
reference, don't have, you know, the proper reference to get.
So you've got to cross-reference it. Now,
Cross-reference.
I'm going to get somebody else to answer in a minute rather than Izzy, so you all don't get lazy.
It's not reliable.
It's not reliable. That's spot on the right word. Well done, Bashir. Yeah? Is that okay? So that's the trouble with YouTube. We haven't talked about that before as a resource. I know we haven't, but it's not totally reliable. However, the video clip we're going to watch is also on YouTube, so you can find stuff that they've linked across. Is that okay? But just be careful. Let's remind ourselves, what does the assignment brief ask you to do? Does it say anything about an action plan?
Milestone, test data, view data, monitoring, review process.
Yeah, it doesn't say, other than in the wording, if the wording says prepare an action plan. Is that okay? But the technique we're going to use is a Gantt chart. So what we should be doing is piggybacking on what we've already done about action planning with Israel and extending that knowledge out. Now, some people actually mentioned other units. What I want you to do now, and you can perhaps work in twos or in threes or on your own, where else does planning come in? What other units does planning come into? We could have a competition here, yeah, because I know how many times I picked it up. Let's see how many times you get, see who wins. So you said Unit 7, Mina? Any idea what that was? Have you looked to see what it was? Okay, that's extending it on. Pardon?
It is about business.
It is about business. What's that unit called? Business strategy. And what's the word strategy mean?
Plan.
A plan. Yeah?
For whole organization.
For the whole organisation. So what you get in that one, and I'm just going to show off, but how did I find out? Because I use this textbook. Yeah? Any other units? So I've got strategy.
Unit 14.
Unit 14, not on my list. Yeah, so well done. 1 point to you, Ali. But what's planning in amongst Unit 14?
Unit 14 because you have to wait.
Can anyone else help him out? Unit 14?
It's planning job.
What do we do on planning? Who do you do Unit 14 with? Is that with Audrey?
Yeah.
The planning job
And
description.
tell you the job description and
You've
job
got to
analysis.
plan who you want to employ.
Oh, yeah.
Your job description, your person spec. Well done. So point to you because I've got 14. Anybody else going to come up with one? Mina's had a go. Arnie? Any other units where you think planning comes into it?
Yeah, unit
Yeah.
13 as well.
Unit 13. Right, I'll come back to that. Arnie?
Can't tell you straight away.
Can't tell me straight away. So 13's not on my list. So it's 1-2 at the minute. You're winning. So tell me about 13. Who do you do 13 with?
Because you need, the plan of yourself.
Who do you do it with? Mandy. This is planning for yourself. So Unit 7 was about planning for the business. Unit 13 is about planning for yourself.
And this unit 26 as well.
Ooh, you're showing off now. Is that law?
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I got Unit 1. Yeah? Learning Outcome 1. Prepare for aims and objectives. Hang on, I've taken it off.
Wow.
Aims and objectives. Where do you have to do aims and objectives? For me. Part of the requirement, isn't it?
Yeah, from this
Yeah.
assignment LO1.
So, Unit 1 links to aims and objectives. What about finance? What about Unit 2, finance? Do you think there's anything in there for planning?
Yeah.
There is, good guy, Bashra, yeah? And I don't know if you can remember doing it. Was that a last year subject?
That's last year, sir.
But you did shortages and surpluses and cash budgeting?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes, budget.
I got Unit 3, okay? Can anybody remember what Unit 3's title was?
The
organization
and
It
behavior.
was. Well done, Jayshree. Now, there's a bit in there about planning, and this guy is my most favourite theorist. If you want to make a note, page 425 in this textbook Yeah,
Blue?
here's your Brucey bonus, page 425. Who's got the textbook?
Nobody.
Okay, what you're going to do now, I've given you this reference then, what you're going to do with it? You're going to look it up. You should be writing this down or typing this down to look it up. Yeah? The man,
Philo. Yeah, I told you that.
Henry Fayol.
Henry Philo, I told you.
Did you say that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. You have to shout. You
Yeah.
have to shout. Henry, yeah? Don't know, yeah? He's the guru of modern management. I'm just going to be mean now, yeah? And I'm going to get Mina to tell us what we've just covered and why it was important. What have we just done? What have we
The
just
plan.
been? So what plan? Sorry?
Both about the action plan.
Action plan? So what have we just been talking about? What have we just spent nearly half an hour? Why spend half an hour? Help me out. What have you learned from this half hour?
What's in your plan? What's
Yes, so why is it important to plan? What else have you learned?
How planning links together different units.
Tell me more. So how planning links together for different units. Tell me more about why that was important, Armin. How are you going to use it?
To study, to plan my assignments.
To plan your assignments, good. So how might that link in somewhere else if Arnie's going to use it to plan his assignments?
If you have aim and objective.
Email.
Could use it for Unit 13.
Yeah. Aim and
Tell me about,
objectives.
say it louder.
Aim and objectives.
Aims and objectives. Yeah, we've talked
Yes.
about that.
Unit 1.
Unit 1 helps you with task 1. Do you think you have to plan aims and objectives?
Sure.
Can you remember what I used to talk about? If you don't know where you're going, how do you know if you've got there?
It's mean to an end, so you have to have the way how to get there.
Good man, it's a means to an end. Because if we actually have a look, it says, number 2, select the most suitable subject of specialism from your initial one and formulate. What's formulate mean? Another
Prepare.
word for formulate?
Prepare.
Prepare. So could you justify your aims and objectives?
Yes.
Yes.
And what grade might you get?
M1.
M1.
As soon as you start thinking, can I justify, it's going to perhaps take you into those higher levels. If you remember, if you looked, and I know not all of you have got your textbooks, despite actually encouraging you to use them, if you remember in the textbook, we get the learning outcomes and then we get the unit content. Remember that? And the unit content tells us what sort of things to cover. What will we get if we cover those? Pass, merit or distinction?
Pass.
Pass,
Pass.
because we're doing exactly
Covering
what
both.
we're asked to do. I've not many brought the textbooks in. Yeah, well again you need to make a note of the page number. So I gave you a page number, perhaps help cyber. What page number did I say?
425.
And why might cyber need that page?
Chapter 8.
Chapter 8.
It wasn't chapter 8. What was it about? Why did I give you that?
Very much 5.
It was Fayol, Henry
Five.
Fayol.
It's about organizing behavior.
It was,
Unit 3.
yeah.
And we can get this on extra action planning.
We-
Help in action planning and task 1.
Okay. What grade is it going to help Jayashri? Help cyber get Jayashri?
M1.
M1. Why? Because it will help you justify. Okay. I don't know how many of you can actually totally read that, but what we've got here is the 4 learning outcomes. Yeah? You dead cool about that? You understand that? So I'm talking about time scale. So when have you got to submit learning outcome 1?
It's 21 March.
21st March.
21st.
Is it 21st?
Yes.
It isn't.
21st.
No, 25th.
It's 25th. Good girl. Why did I say not Friday?
Oh, you change, yeah.
because I'm not here on a Friday, so it seemed a bit cruel.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have given you the weekend, but Tuesday the 25th is when outcome 1 comes in. Now I did go through this with you, so it's worth you telling me and you reminding yourselves, when's learning outcome 2 got to come in?
16th of May.
16th of May?
Yeah.
And learning outcome 3?
17th of October.
17th of October. And when's learning outcome 4?
5th of December,
5th of December. What did we say might happen?
Early.
early.
My earliest or
It might be earlier. Remember, I haven't got the timetable yet for the next year. Yeah, from July onwards. I need to move that on though, because so far it kind of feels as though I haven't talked a lot about what's on this list. And of course Gantt charts is where we're going. But if you go on to the resources I've given you on week 7, so you might need to write that down, yeah, you will find that and the Mind Tools link. Yeah, you know how to get into the hyperlink?
Yeah.
Told you earlier about Mind Tools. You know how to do that. Now, this is one I prepared earlier, if we're right. Okay? And if you go onto the link, that's what you will find. Yeah, is that okay? So if you go onto that hyperlink, you will find this. What I'm going to do is, because I think sometimes listening to me, you must get bored, reading stuff, yeah, sometimes, did you ever do the VAK? What does VAK mean? Tell me what VAK means. Visual, auditory, kinesthetic. So if I'm going to show you a video clip, what technique am I using? Visual. Is it only visual? Auditory, because you've got to listen, yeah? And for some of you, kinesthetic, because you've got to make the links. So these sort of clips you might find for yourself, but this one actually, this lady, bless her, and it's only about 4 minutes, who totally reminds me of the lady who was, oh hang on, part of the Levison Inquiry, which I'll talk about.
Hello,
I'm just going to turn that out, is that okay?
mindtools.com, home to hundreds of free career boosting tools and resources. Take a few moments to explore the menus on the left-hand side of the site. The articles you'll find there teach more than 100 skills that will help you improve your career completely for free.
You can also sign up to our free newsletter and receive.
I'm just going to stop it there, because I think you know my favourite word is free. Yeah? So I love free. Just be careful though, because if you do sign up to these free newsletters, not only have they got access to your personal web sites, but you could get a bit on overload. Yeah, so just be sure that you actually want this information. Henry Gantt is the guy who actually came up with this. It's not a surprise really. I think what we've got to do, guys, is we've got to come up with something and become known by it, and then our name continues to, is it perpetuity, is that right? Anyway, forever. Yeah, so maybe we've got to think up something clever and we'll go into the theory books. It is in your textbook, yeah, there's a little bit about him, but it's on page 829, yeah, and this is figure 8.2, okay? And we're going to have a look at that now. I've put it together for you slightly differently as well. Just as a bit of background, Gantt himself was one of the very, very first, you know, like I said, Henry Fayol, yeah, well this is another Henry, but this is Henry with a Y. He was the actual original project manager, yeah, it goes back, and again we're at a similar sort of time to Fayol, 1917, and he actually became so well known for sort of strategies for economy and efficiency, and a lot of what he did, the other Henry, sorry, actually linked in and was used for the World War I planning, yeah, and for other planning. It is American, so if you look him up on the site, you'll find a lot of American examples. I think he was responsible for the Hoover Dam, which some of you might know about and others won't. However, be careful, because I don't want the history of Henry Gant. What was interesting about what Gant did is it transfers superbly to the digital age. Yeah? Because they talked about a graph chart, of getting a piece of graph paper, but of course we could use the spreadsheet approach. Yeah, and that's what I expect you to be doing. Can I just show you one thing and then I'll stop and you can take over? Remember I said earlier people asked me how to highlight. Does anybody know how we end up with those coloured boxes? Does anybody know how to do that?
I do.
You know.
I think so.
Do you want to try and show us, Arnie? Using this one or not? Are you brave?
I
Try
can
and
try.
show us how to do it.
How to
Yeah.
color them, you mean?
Yeah, so people
Uh,
know.
I think you choose this option over here.
So
This is for coloring text,
You-
and that's for coloring
this
area.
doesn't happen often, Arnie. I'll let you tell me what to do for once. So you can tell me
Oh, that's
what
it,
I'm
yeah.
doing. Yeah, so what am I doing?
Just choose what you want to color, which area.
So if I highlight that,
Yeah. And
so can
then
you see what I've done, guys? Show us on the board, Arnie, so I can do it well. So, yeah? Now what do you want me to do? Now where do you want me to go?
so here should.
Can you see where I am, guys?
Yeah.
Can you see where my arrow's gone? Yeah? And if you put your hover over it, it says fill colour. Is that what I'm looking for, Arnie?
I think so, yeah. I'm not 100%. Yeah, here you go.
Yeah?
It goes
Now,
red.
it's gone yellow.
Yeah, 'cause
It was whatever colour it was before,
if you-
but
you
it's
can
gone
choose
yellow.
Color from drop.
So if we do
Drop
the
down.
drop down, everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Yeah? So you know how to highlight it. Is that okay? Thanks, Arnie. Okay, I'll come round and get going. Yeah? You can have a look at the video clip if you prefer. Yeah? And then you're going to actually do it now. Any queries before you carry on?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Satish Vizavadia, Director at ICE Academy, and today is the 18th of March 2014, and today I was involved in an observation with Judith Proctor, one of our senior teachers, and basically what we're having now is after the observation today, which was earlier this morning, we're actually having a post-observation discussion just to give a feedback on the observation, comments, and any really comments, and just generally just to feedback on how it went, and a short discussion, which is a normal practice for all ICE Academy staff, and all the observations we do. We normally do want to feedback as soon as possible to all the teaching staff. So I hope this is something that whoever's watching will be useful for you.
Thanks, Satish.
Well, thanks for meeting me very briefly, Judith. Let me just first of all tell you about the observation. I've done many observations, so far, and I did feel that this one was particularly a good one. And I have to say, before the observation, sending information in advance, scheme of work, lesson plan, supporting documentation, understanding of the assignment brief and the assignment and the lesson, the actual lesson content was very useful, because it meant that my observation was more concentrated on teaching and learning the techniques you were using, and actually observing the students, exactly how they're responding. And that's always useful, because often in observations, when you don't get the information in advance, it's very difficult for the observer to actually dilute all that stuff in a short period. So I thought that was really well presented. It was very simple to understand, and I found it very useful actually as part of the observation.
Great.
And I thought your resources that you prepared were quite excellent. So I did find it very useful. And I think the fact that you use textbook references for students to go and refer to a particular page, I think that's excellent. I do find that students at this level do need to, especially these are second year students, they do need to go to a book and refer to the work that they're doing, because it's the only way they're going to be able to do their assignments.
what wasn't clear on the plan is that they should have all read that chapter
Yes.
beginning
Yes, yes.
right when we started.
Yes.
So,
yes,
and I
yes.
did forget to check with them.
But you did remind
exactly
them.
who done. Yeah.
You did remind them.
So
and
they
I think,
should. That should have
yeah,
been no
yeah,
surprise.
Yeah. And I think not just reminded, but you actually reinforced it of the importance of it to refer back, because that would just help them, move on.
Yeah.
If I can just go into just a few things I picked up,
Yeah.
with the group. I thought the group was actually, it's a nice little group you've got there, and they're fairly interactive, they're fairly okay, and they know their subject, and I think because they're a second year group, they do know what they need to do. Some of them are probably a little bit worried because research is a very difficult subject anyway for anybody, because you have to learn to reference things and you need to know what you're doing. And charting of things is not an easy thing because it's quite a technical thing as well. Because you're going to have to use the software. It's not just a straightforward academic exercise. So, and I thought that combining skills into putting content, academic research, and then putting them into technical side, and I know all teaching staff are not technically minded, but it was good. And the fact that you used one of the students to explain to them, I thought that was really good. I think that's good, show and tell. I think it's a really good technique to use. So I found that useful. I think that the percentage of students participating was quite high actually, which I think is good, because I always find in observation, student engagement, I don't like the straightforward lecture. I think you've got to strike a balance between you and the student, and there's got to be a dialogue at some point. And these are adults. So I thought I think you did really well. And you engaged those who are actually not participating as well, which was good.
Yeah.
So you did differentiate really between those who are quiet, and those who are actually quite assertive.
Yeah.
So I thought that was quite well done. And I think the important thing is that you challenged them. You did challenge them where they did actually weren't sure or they were getting things wrong. You did challenge them and you did question them. And I think there was a high quality of dialogue in that, which I found it useful.
Thank you.
And the language, I think you picked up on the language there with them, because some of the terminology, these students I think were finding it a little bit difficult to grasp. So I think having your the chart, the board, the PowerPoint, because you used every technique that was there, because you were using the flip chart when you wanted to refer to a particular piece. Then you went to the board and you got things on the board. Then you were also using the PowerPoint. And then you was using your own, visual, you got the book there.
Yeah.
Saw the book there. And is that quite a normal thing you do? You always keep a book there. You always show them saying, did you go on that page?
Yeah.
I always,
Where I can.
yeah.
It really depends what we're at, but
Yeah.
what's the point in giving them a book if you don't use it? Because we've got to be shown, and that's my own personal thing,
Yeah.
that we're using the book.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they never open it.
Well, you know what? Actually showing them the book and using it yourself is a really good technique of actually getting them to use it. Because quite a lot of students do get these books and they always scream when they don't have it, but they don't use
Well,
them.
they don't use them.
Yeah, so I thought it was good. So what I've done is actually I've done I think you had a really good lesson, and I found it very useful. It's one of the best ones I've seen anyway in
Right.
ICE Academy. It was well organised, well planned, and you actually clocked it, so you actually went according to time as well, and you did stop them talking and said, I've got to move on now. And I think finishing the lesson is just as important as doing the lesson. So I think you timed it quite well, and I thought that was quite good. So my observation actually was, around a number of things, but I've started putting it in. If I just go through quickly with it, I won't read it, but I thought pre-observation, the documentation I received was good, and I was very happy with that. So I always find that anybody I was going to give a good grading, I want to have prepared documentation. So that was really good. I think you as a person was very presentable, very smart, very organised, and to the point. You didn't, you had quite a normal time, but you kept them focused, which is a really important thing, which I don't find a lot in the lessons, is assignment brief. You constantly referred to your subject and referred them to that assignment brief. And I think that's and using question and answer, dialogue, and referencing to the book constantly. I think those three things are really important because you really did actually get them to the task.
Yeah.
And guess what I wanted to do? I wanted to hear them talk about their assignment, and they did. And they said things like, I've got to complete my assignment on this deadline. If I don't, what do I do? And you said, well, what do you do? And you know, you don't get students talking about assignments and things and completing assignments, but they were talking about that today, which I thought was really positive. I mean, even if they don't get there, at least they're going to be aiming to finish on that date.
I suppose the one thing I didn't do, which I might have done, was link it to a working environment, about meeting deadlines in a working environment. So I perhaps didn't.
Yeah, well, I think I've got 2 or 3 things I thought you could have linked it to. One of them actually at the end was a career thing.
Yeah.
You know, I think that one of the things we are stressing in our observations is that tutors need to really link students into how that would be useful in a real environment. If they were doing a real project, how the Gantt chart could be used, you know.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, I actually just used your Gantt chart in a project I'm doing in India, you know. So I've actually worked out the A comes before the B and B comes before the C, and without A and B you can't get the C. And, you
I
know,
suppose what I did was linked it to other stuff like Unit 13, but
Yes.
I didn't actually make it career specific, although
Yeah.
I did refer to how the guy's techniques, the Gantt chart was used,
Yeah.
but I didn't do it to
Yeah.
careers. No.
So that was the only, I think that was, but I think generally you did cover that because there was the young ladies in behind me were talking about, you know, how I would use it elsewhere, you know, how that technique, that Gantt chart can be used in other situations, because research is in almost everything you do,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, in everything, any project you do,
Yeah.
you'd have to do a sort of thing. I think your delivery was fantastic. You know, you were clear, concise, well-spoken, to the point, and you didn't waste any time, and you engaged them and you encouraged them to share their understandings, give them their feedback on your subject, and you consistently, I think, made good links, which I found that to be useful. And I think that's really important because the students need to know that the teaching staff is an authority in what they're trying to tell you. And I think you definitely went beyond that.
I think though, if I might, that's easier to do in year 2 than in year 1.
You know what?
Yeah.
These guys were. I've seen students, you know, can be more difficult and can be less receiving of this information. But these guys tend to were okay about it. You know,
Yeah.
they said, yeah, we you know, it's a nice little group you got there. You know, they're very recipient, you know, about the whole subject.
What did you think about them using computers? Do you think that was all right?
Well,
Because I have a thing about it being a barrier, but equally so, they got it as a resource for them to use. I was
Yeah.
expecting them to use the assignment brief and the
I know,
materials.
I know. But
So
I,
without the computer, they couldn't have done that.
but I thought you covered it really well because I don't think anybody complained for a start.
No,
Nobody
no.
mentioned it, and they were happy. And so I think you're.
But they're used to it, you see.
But you see, you got so many things going. You got so many things of information there to digest, and you were doing it in piecemeal, you know. And I don't think they actually thought of that. In fact, if anything, it was your thing that went off, and the screen went off, and that, you know. But that's quite normal, you know, in computers. But I think they would take some homework from this today.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I think they'll take some homework on a self basis to say, let me have a look at it. Because the video, I thought the technique you use in the video, I think is really good. Because stopping a video at an appropriate point for them to then continue is a good technique. Don't show them the full video. Show them the bit you want to show them. If they want anything, they can do it themselves. And I noted the guy was saying, well, I can watch this later, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I think that's really good. Because that's self-learning as adults, you know, they'll take away, and if they can take that, I thought that was a really good thing to do as well, which I found it useful. I did think that you used some sort of innovative methods, I think, because when combining the video to summarize or to make a point and actually show them on a PowerPoint as well was very useful because the people in the video explained it really well.
Yeah.
You know, really, really well. And I think using a mixture of different techniques of video and you know, PowerPoint and a speech and presentation and then
For me,
computer.
that's about cementing it, you see. It's almost like tell them
It was very much-
again.
it was a good joined-up exercise.
Thank you.
You know, it was a very good joined-up exercise. I didn't think it was not confusing at all. I think it was a very joined-up piece of work, which I thought was good. And I think you related the last thing I found, which was useful for me, was you actually related their contributions, the students' contributions. You actually related to the assignment brief, and then you moved into the assignment brief, and you actually said, "Look, I want this, and I want it completed." Blah blah blah. And they started talking about, you know, and they felt, okay, you know, I can do this. Because some of them were a bit not sure if they're going to do it, but they said, I can do this. And I thought that was really well done. Yeah, I mean, you know, I think the charting, you know, was just one thing, but the way you've done it, I think it's a very difficult thing to understand, Gantt charts, because I've seen some Gantt chart presentations which are so complicated that you think, I don't think I understood what it is, you know, I don't want to even touch it. So
Some of the videos are 20 minutes long.
Oh, too long.
You just lose it.
yeah. And I think the last bit for me, which was good, is you actually encourage them to go book references. And I think at this level of teaching, we've got to get students to actually look at referencing.
Yeah.
They've got to know referencing, they've got to get to the books, and they've got to read the relevant charts, and they've got to put down that they've seen that bit in that book, and then comment on it.
Yeah, well, they are going to be doing something on that
Yeah.
as a separate thing, but it also comes
Yeah.
into the...
Right, so those were my observations. There was only one thing that I wanted to point out, which I thought was, whether it was there or not, but I think it's a small point. My way of looking at teaching is I never take a cup of tea in the classroom.
Yeah,
So that was more of a
yeah.
observation, but
Yeah.
it's, you know, but I didn't think that actually distracted anybody.
No, if I can be very fair, they know I need my caffeine fix.
That's right. That's
and
fine.
I haven't had time to drink it, so
Yeah.
I was drinking it cold. But
Yeah.
yes, you're quite right. The notices are up saying no drinks in classrooms.
Yeah. Well, any comments you've got then?
No, I think that's very fair. I think from my perspective, we achieved what I set out to achieve, and I really felt, as you did, that they were confident enough to get going. Also, by stopping sort of half an hour towards the end, they've got time to have a go on their own while I'm still around to support, and indeed one or two did ask for that support. Yeah, we can look back at things and say, oh, I wish I'd thought to do that and this, that and the other, but it certainly went as I'd expected, and they are used to me being very direct, you know. They know what to expect, and you know, they know that if they're in class they're going to get extras in terms of information and what have you.
You did add value to your lesson actually.
Yeah, that was a real sort of, but they know that that's an ongoing, that's not a one-off. So what might I have done differently? I thought you weren't in for it, but the initial activity, which was where they were trying to get them to tell me where planning came into other assignments, that sort of spun off a bit, and I think I'd try and tighten that up. Yeah, I tried to make it a bit competitive with them, but in the end I ended up taking it back and doing it. But sometimes that's what you have to do. I just wanted them to understand that planning is not just doing it at the Gantt chart, and I think they got that, but I would tighten that activity up if I did the lesson again.
Well, what struck me is the time went very fast. You know, I was there 45 minutes. I didn't realise I was there 45 minutes. It just went really fast because there's so many things going on, but it was actually paced very well. I mean, I have graded it as grade 1.
Oh, great.
So you've got a grade 1.
I thought with all these goods I was going to get a 2.
No, I put in grade 1 because I was actually looking at academic learning and teaching. And I was actually measuring it against the sort of, and I actually did follow the book today, because I actually followed the book. I actually looked at the book and I looked at the grading criteria, and a number of things in there fit, you know, to I thought it was grade 1, and you know, I hope that you continue to actually do it in that way, and I hope that the teaching staff in ICE Academy actually do take time to prepare things in advance, because I think it makes their lesson so much easier to do preparation prior to the lesson.
Some of them know. I talk about the 80-20 rule, which I know is Pareto analysis, but I say you spend more time outside the classroom when you're in the classroom really they should be doing 80% of the work. You're doing 20% based on what you've already prepped.
That's it. And
Yeah.
that's the key thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
Preparation is the key.
yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Good,
oh, thank you
good,
very
good.
much.
Well,
That's good.
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
remember not to take my coffee around, but they do know that I actually desperately need my caffeine fix,
No,
particularly
I
first
think,
thing in the morning.
we are in an adult teaching
Yeah.
environment, you know, we're not
Yeah.
teaching, so I think in a casual way, I think that's okay. If it's
Yeah.
done in the right way, in the right spirit, you know, then I'm not.
Actually, I'd forgotten it was there. And then realised it was there and thought, I'm drinking this because I can't afford to not
So
have
you know, I
the buzz.
noticed when you drank it.
Yeah, yeah. No, it had been there a while.
Well, I hope this has been useful as an observation feedback, and anybody who's watching this, we hope that there will be some good things that you can take from observations that you've had, had done, and that it's an example of how an observation in ICE Academy is done. So hope you've found it useful and interesting. That's myself, Satish, and this is Judith.
And thanks to Tom, who's been behind the camera all the time.
Yeah, and
But
thanks
has
to
definitely been there.
Yeah, thanks to Tom as well for being, thank you very much.
I think it's important to note that this is actually happening, this is live.
Yes.
I had no idea what Satish was going to say.
Absolutely.
We'd not planned what we were going to talk about
No,
or
no,
anything.
absolutely.
So this is like anybody can expect, because you
Yeah.
don't know what your observer's going to
Yeah.
say. I'd absolutely
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. Yeah, this was absolutely done.
Satish.
Yeah, thank you very much. All right.
Yep.